So we're really excited. This is going to be an awesome next session. And I know we say that every time, but this one really is. Okay? It's going to be the MLB Sustainability Spotlight, sponsored by our friends from GreenFields. So along those lines, I'd like to bring up Dean Linke. He's the Director of New Business for GreenFields, and more importantly for this audience, also the voice of the Big Ten TV network. Dean.
Thank you. Good to see everybody. It has been an amazing week, a moving week. I don't know if you were at the fireside chat just a moment ago, but Kathleen Hatch, is Kathleen here? Brilliant person. My favorite answer all week, because I felt it. Somebody asked her, how do you measure success in all these issues of sustainability and social issues? And her answer hit home with me, because I've had a perma smile all week, and you answer it by the smiles on people's faces. And for me, this has been a moving week personally, and a moving week for my family. I go to a lot of conferences, and it's one of those where she also said she called home to pledge her support now for Andrew, who won that award. And even though she's a hardcore Calgary fan, I appreciated that, because I've called home and told my wife how incredible the Green Sports Alliance is and how it's moved me. And then my son's a sophomore now in college, and I asked him to get involved in his college when he gets back with their sustainability efforts at High Point. And those of you that have kids, you sometimes wonder if they're hearing you, are they listening to you? And I felt like he felt the passion in my voice, and I think he's going to do it. I certainly hope he does. This week has also been about partnerships, and we especially want to thank Mr. Jenkins with Mercedes-Benz Stadium. GreenFields Sports Turf is the official turf of Mercedes-Benz, thus the official turf for the Atlanta United of MLS and the Atlanta Falcons. And our turf is 100% recyclable, which is super exciting, I think, as you sit in this room and think about the future of sports turf. Our company is powered by Tenkata, 300 years old, and every day they work in innovation and with their engineering department to make our environment more friendly, our planet better and safer for our kids. So I give Mr. Jenkins a big assist for getting us here, but I give all of you the goal for making a difference, because indeed you have moved GreenFields to the point where I can stand up here and tell you confidently we will be in Sacramento as a supporter of this group, and we will be there well beyond as well. Thank you so much for letting us be a part of this incredible event. Appreciate all you do and look forward to this wonderful forum here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dean. And Dean, personal invitation, have your son come and volunteer an intern. We'll hook him up in Sacramento. We can use the additional help, and I'm sure he'll love the learning. All right, now we're ready. You all know Joe Abernathy. He's a board member here at the Green Sports Alliance and the VP of Stadium Operations for the St. Louis Cardinals. And there's a very long bio, but Joe said, don't read any of that. Please just get me up here. So we're going to have more time for the panel. Joe Abernathy.
Thank you, Joe. Nobody wants to hear that bio about my kids and what I've done to get here, but the good thing is that I'm here. So I tell you what, and I want to thank Dean for your sponsorship of this particular program. We're real excited to have you there and getting our opportunity to be in the spotlight here at the summit. You know, we're proud to have these three teams that are going to represent us here in a few minutes up here. But I would like also to sort of give a shout out to all the other Major League Baseball teams that are represented as attendees here at this year's summit. They include the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Seattle Mariners, who won that award last night, Tampa Bay Rays, Cleveland Indians, and Pittsburgh Pirates. Also in the audience, we have a couple representatives from Major League Baseball's central office in New York City. Of course, we got Jason Qdoba and Paul Hanlon, who are our sustainability contacts up at Major League Baseball. Thanks a lot, guys. And then, of course, Paul Midson that we just heard from in the prior panel. So we appreciate their support tremendously. And Major League Baseball is excited to get its turn at bat here at the summit. You know, baseball is an institution, and in particularly Commissioner Emeritus Bud Selig had long realized, as the Green Sports Alliance has, that the power and influence of sport is a great thing. Bud further believed that baseball is a social institution with social responsibilities. He believed that just as baseball served as an example to society about how race relations can be with the appearance of Jackie Robinson, he also believed that baseball can serve a similar role as it applies to environmental stewardship. So in 2007, he then created the Commissioners Initiative on the Environment, challenging the league and its teams to take a leading role in environmental stewardship. And that was 3 years before the Green Sports Alliance was founded. But when the Green Sports Alliance did come to be founded, Major League Baseball was quick to join and support the Green Sports Alliance in that effort. Back then in 2007, started pretty simply. Got great assistance from Alan Hershowitz, a great inspirational video from Robert Redford as Roy Hobbs in The Natural, kind of inspiring all our teams to take on the environment as a task. And we were off and running. Then Scott Jenkins and I got together, the first Major League Baseball stadium operations, sustainable operating subcommittee of the Stadium Operations Department, and we were off and rolling. You know, we tried to organize all the team's efforts around sustainability. Early on, we had some great success developing measurement tools to help us track some of our sustainable data. Those simple charts have now turned into a computer-based MLB Green Tracks program that exists on our portal that all Major League Baseball teams can feed this data into. We also took recycling quite seriously, and it was our first effort. And we took the Major League Baseball recycling program, which was essentially negligent, or I shouldn't say negligent, but just very low in 2006. And by 2010, we were recycling at nearly 30%. We were diverting 30% of our waste through the efforts of the teams. Now, the giant among the recyclers in Major League Baseball has been the San Francisco Giants, and we created a Green Glove Award for them, and they're a little better at recycling than they are at baseball. They've got 7 consecutive Green Glove Awards, but you know, the Giants are quite proud of that, and I was amazed when I went to their ballpark and I saw those 7 Green Gloves to recognize themselves as the top recycling team in Major League Baseball. They display those right next to the World Series trophies. So I just thought that was amazing. Major League Baseball continues that journey today. And as we were unfortunate, we were not able to have Commissioner Rob Redford here, but we do have a statement, and I'll read it. At Major League Baseball, our commitment to social responsibility has been and continues to be a core part of the league's identity. With our clubs collectively hosting more than 2,400 games per year, we feel an obligation to practice environmentally responsible behavior and to diligently strive for improved efficiency in our ballparks. Recognizing not only the impact we have on the environment with our events, the influence baseball has on the lives of millions of fans. MLB and its clubs will continue to focus on implementing innovative environmental practices that lead by example. Our teams are converting to LED lighting, providing more sustainable food choices at MLB parks, focusing on community events surrounding greening efforts, and creating business partnerships that promote sustainable practices. We are proud of the leadership shown by our clubs like the ones presenting here at the Green Sports Alliance, and determined as an industry to continue challenging ourselves to find new ways to be conscientious global citizens. So, as I say, Major League Baseball continues to do that. And here today, it's driven by the fact, and you'll see it demonstrated by the fact that earlier this year, Major League Baseball made the proud announcement that they were the first league to have all 30 of its teams join the Green Sports Alliance. First team across the United States. And further, of those 30 teams, 12 of them are represented at this meeting here today. So not only have they joined, they participate and they push us to those higher levels. And that Major League Baseball support will also extend to the leadership of the GSA, as we're proud to announce today yet another new board member for the Green Sports Alliance, and that will be Doug Behar of the New York Yankees. I don't see Dougie out there. I don't see Doug out there, but the board voted on that this past week, and we'll be glad to have him on the board. And all along the way, the MLB greening effort has been a team-led effort. And so we're going to get to hear from 3 teams today that are giving us great examples of what we're doing to be conscientious global citizens. So to help us with that today, I have 3 Major League executives that'll be here. First, we have from the, oh, there it is, down there, sorry. We have Graham Rossini. He's the Vice President of Special Projects of the Fan Experience for the Arizona Diamondbacks. We also have Reed Ryan, who's the President of Business Operations of our host here, the Houston Astros. And finally, we have Dave St. Peter, who's the President of the Minnesota Twins. If you gentlemen want to come up and take your spots in the seats. And we are so blessed today to have leading our discussion, a return contributor to the summit, Mr. Abe Madkour, the executive editor of the Sports Business Journal. So with that, I turn it over to you.
Great.
Abe, lead the discussion.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks. How's everyone doing? It's good to be here. First alliance for me was Santa Clara a couple years ago. It's great to see some familiar faces, some old friends, and really, really admire all the work that everyone in this room is doing. I think we have a great session. We're going to spend the next at least hour talking about some of the issues that they're facing at the team level in baseball. Your session. So when you have a question, I'm going to open it up early and often for questions. We have roaming mics in the room, so like I said, it's your session, so have your hand up and I'll go to the audience often. Great panel, and I just want to, our host here, Reed, great, beautiful venue. Thanks for having us. One quick anecdote, I interviewed your dad maybe 10 years ago at one of our conferences, and his dad's a little intimidating. I was very nervous, and during my introduction, how many no-hitters does your dad have?
7.
7. I introduced him to the man with 8 no-hitters, and there was a slight pause in the room, and he's like, well, I appreciate you giving me one more. I really needed that. So it was
He had one in high school, so there you go. He had one in high school. There you go.
I like it. So I asked each of these individuals to just take a minute or two briefly to talk about where the role of sustainability fits into their organization, because we heard earlier on the panel, top-down approach, you really need that leadership from the top down. So why don't we start, Graham, why don't we start with you on the end?
Yeah, thanks, Abe, and thanks everybody for being here. It's my 9th year with the Diamondbacks, and actually the 5th time that we've been able to attend the Green Sports Alliance Summit. And Matt Helmy, a colleague of mine, and I have been here throughout all the years. And it's amazing to see how big this group has grown and kind of the effort that's happening across all sports. And to hear that we've got 300 teams, leagues, and venues represented, the fact that all of Major League Baseball is here, over 400, yeah, even bigger, my bad. But it's amazing to see this movement and what's happening around us. And I think realizing from our standpoint, baseball is a social sport, and the fact that we do have that responsibility in our markets, within our fan bases. There's over 74 million fans in Major League ballparks last season. Add in minor league baseball, 160 teams all over the country. That's another probably almost 40 million fans. That's a lot of reach. That's a lot of scale to be able to influence people in our markets. And so when we as respective clubs and executive teams and leadership groups realize the reach that we have and really want to take advantage of it, it starts at ownership. It's no doubt top down in our organization, and I'm sure for the others as well. And so when you have the support of ownership, when you have that kind of nudge and that urging to do good by your fans and be a vocal and a visual leader in your markets, the possibilities are endless. And so we're proud to be working on this. It's certainly a starting point. There's a long way to go, but I think being around groups like this, being around movements where we can rely on what's happening in other clubs and rely on what's happening in other leagues and pick the brains of different people in the room and bring those examples back into our market, it's a really powerful thing to be a part of, and we're happy to be here.
Great. Dave?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Reed and the Astros for hosting this, and I tip my cap to Scott Jenkins, Joe Abernathy, and others for their leadership in really starting this discussion within our industry back in the mid-2000s. From a Twins perspective, that timing was important because we were about to commence the construction of a new ballpark in Minnesota, and I believe that the timing was critical because I think it helped inform our ownership and certainly our organization about two things. One, the clear opportunity that was there to do some things in a leading or pioneering fashion around sustainability that would ultimately become I think a reset for the way we as an organization viewed sustainability as a priority within our organization, mainly because we think it's the right thing to do. But two, I also think it was more than that. I think it was an opportunity for us to do good business. We certainly in Minnesota have, I think, what is relatively viewed as a pretty progressive community around sustainability. I think it's an expectation amongst our fans and certainly our fellow businesses in Minnesota. But beyond that, I think we also understand that the millennial generation, every bit of data you would look at would tell you that that's an expectation from our fans of the future, our season ticket holders of the future, and hopefully of the present. So I think those were important factors as well as we thought about what it meant to the team and to the theme of this conference, where the partnerships needed to be constructed.
And Reed?
Okay, well, first off, thank you guys all for coming to Houston. I hope everyone enjoyed the healthy humidity for your skin, so everyone's going to go away revitalized. Actually, before I get into it, I'd like to thank Kara and Lena and our organization for all their work to put this on. We were honored to get to host, and these two ladies have done a phenomenal job, so thank you if you guys are out there. Yeah, thank you, both of you. Hitting on what these guys said, I mean, they really sort of, nailed it. In Houston, when you think of our town, everybody thinks oil and gas and, pollution and dirty and all that kind of stuff that I think is a holdover really from the 1960s and the 1970s. We're really the energy capital of the world here. We have firms from all over, the world. They're based here. And the big boys take this very, very seriously. And it only takes one or two people to sort of give an industry a bad name. And so I can tell you from being here now as four seasons as the Astros president, this is important in our community. And with what Graham and Dave said and Abe said, people look at us. We touch everybody in this community. We're leaders, whether we like it or not. And so our organization and our owner, Jim Crane, he wants to be known as being the best and being a leader in this community. And so that's why we've done things, whether it's the LED lights or, working with our partners. And you got to have good partners. Having Aramark here and having them be on the same page as us, and then having Waste Management who handles all of our needs from a waste perspective, having all three of these parties saying, look, let's be community leaders and let's be at the forefront of this, it makes it very, very easy. And so we've taken a lot of pride. This is a high growth area. A lot of people are moving in here. Our economy is still very strong, and folks are coming in with a perspective and an expectation because of places they've lived. And as Dave said, millennials. And I was very fortunate because I lived in Austin almost the last 20 years. My family owns a team there, a AAA team called the Round Rock Express. And so that was a community where this was in our DNA. So when Marcel Braithwaite and everybody else in our organization decided that we were going to get on board, it's what the community wants, it's what our employees want. And so we jumped in, and we're glad that, we feel like we're at the top of that list of leaders.
Well, that makes a good jumping off point, I think, because often over the years I've heard that it's market specific, or you have to approach it different depending on the market you're in. It sounds to me from what I'm hearing from you three is that that barrier now has been lowered, and that now it isn't where markets react differently to sustainability efforts.
Yeah, I'll be the first to jump in on that. I mean, I live in Phoenix. So it's a great town in the middle of nowhere. We're in the Sonoran Desert. the warmest desert in all of North America. And I'll go back to an unbelievable keynote that I know Abe was there for a couple years ago in the Bay Area. I'm sure a number of others were as well, but James Curley from Levi. Unbelievable keynote speech. If you get a chance, go online, Google it. It's 30 minutes, very, very well spent. But he said something that really stuck with me, and it was about don't chase the landscape, change it. And I think in our market, realizing that we don't have social pressure, we don't have a lot of environmental factors driving this effort forward, we've really got an opportunity to get out in front and lead by example. And so when we don't have that pressure and we don't have that expectation necessarily, I think that's when you say, look, we can be that influencer, we can be that catalyst for change and really wrap our arms around this initiative. And again, the reach that we have as a sport, as a team in our market where, worst case scenario, we've got over 2 million fans in our ballpark every year. We've got millions more watching on TV. And so I think we can use that as an example and say if we're operating efficiently and sustainably in our environment and in our venues, and people look at that in the scale of a major league venue, one of the largest sporting venues in the world, and say if they're doing it there at that level with as complicated a facility as we have, I can take that lesson learned back in my own business or back in my own day-to-day life and replicate that to a smaller extent. But if more and more people keep doing that and it kind of grows exponentially, I think that's when we start making a difference. So even in a market that doesn't have that same pressure, I think having the support of ownership and the leadership team to say it's just good business. It makes sense, the social responsibility of it, but also the fact that we can really influence others and fans in our marketplace. And that's a fun challenge to be able to embrace.
And Dave, Minneapolis is different from Houston. The community pressure was probably heightened on your organization.
Yeah, I believe that. But to your original question, I think the growth of the Green Sports Alliance is about as defining as anything when you see 300 to 400 organizations part of it. I think that tells you that it isn't necessarily a geographical play. In Minnesota and certainly other key markets across the country, there is a higher standard, a higher expectation, and I think for us, we viewed the construction of Target Field as an opportunity. There was a platform, I think, that we could do some things internally to kind of reset, I guess, where it fit with us from a organizational perspective. But I think beyond that, I think we also saw it as a good business opportunity. There were a number of partners, both government partners as well as corporate partners, who had interest in utilizing a ballpark project in Minnesota to send important messages across the county, across the state, and ultimately the region about the importance of sustainability. So whether that be Hennepin County, that happened to have a garbage burner that was right next to our ballpark that we tie into for energy, whether it be MnDOT that had a real huge focus on getting people to bike into downtown Minneapolis and bike to games, or whether it be Pentair, a global power company based in Minnesota that does water filtration systems, decided let's do something in Minnesota that actually creates a platform for us to talk about a subject that frankly isn't very sexy, but creates great awareness about what they do all over the world. So there were a lot of those types of jumping off points.
And those were in the front end of your discussions in developing the ballpark.
By all means, they were front and center. And even at the time when we were at the state legislature, there was a discussion about what we as an organization would be willing to commit around LEED certification for construction. We took it a step further and gained, I think we were the first MLB team to gain LEED certification for operations.
Fantastic. How many have been to Target Field? Raise your hand. That's a great venue. And you've already talked about it, but you talked about coming from the minor leagues to the major leagues. And so where do you place the emphasis on sustainability within your organization? And has it been a focal point for you in terms of creating a spot within your organization?
Yeah, I think it matters today, and everywhere you go, no matter what the market is. You look at our workforce, we have a lot of young people, and one of the things that we do is, it's a little thing, but we have the recycle bins by everybody's desk as well as trash bins. And if you're going to go out and recruit employees and apples are apples, folks, these things matter. So whether it's what we're doing in the office or what we're doing in the stadium, people want to be proud of where they work, and that's something, especially with the millennials and this young workforce that we have, that matters to them, social responsibility. This year we went away from the first time, I don't know what you guys do, of printing season tickets now. We went to an all-mobile season ticket platform, and as Dave said, making good business decisions. It's good for us because we want to see who all's touching the ticket, but also we're not printing a bunch of stuff, killing trees and throwing paper and littering up the ballpark, because we've moved to a technology that helps us, it helps our fans, it's easier for them to email them around, and it helps the environment. So when you get those sort of win-win-wins, just like LED lights, then we tend to go do those things. And we've all kind of, I'm sure people in this room have been early adopters. There have been a lot of things that maybe over the years, we tried, but when you get the ones that really, really work, that's when people latch on and when they get excited.
How much, little offshoot, but how much pushback on the no printing ticket?
There's still people that we printed them for. There was a fee because, we have fans that, there's some that, older fans that don't even have smartphones or have access to do it.
Sure.
So we put a fee on there and printed those for them. I think it was $150, something like that.
Per ticket, of course.
Yeah. In the Diamond Club,
okay,
yeah.
Right, okay.
But we did that, and actually we had very little pushback. I was worried about it, but it just shows you the evolution of, our community's mind around how they want to see things handled.
Let's talk about some win-wins. I know you mentioned LED lighting. There was a discussion on opportunities with food and other points of recycling. Specifically, what areas are you seeing real traction in terms of your sustainability efforts?
I think in our situation, lighting is obviously a big focus, and seeing what the Astros have done, what the Yankees and the Mariners have done with the LED sports lighting, the power of partnerships. So baseball is a beautiful environment for best practices and us using each other's resources and lessons learned. And Reed talked about the first movers. There's a first mover in every aspect of our operation. It's just a matter of understanding who's that team, how do we learn from their lessons, avoid the mistakes that may have happened, but also build on that success. And so I think lighting in baseball, just given the volume of games that we have over the course of 81 games at least, and then hopefully playoffs is something that factors into it as well. But what's happening in the lighting world, just the cost of it coming down, the impact on obviously efficiency and utilities, et cetera, but fan experience and game operations and what that allows you to do and just to liven up the show of a baseball game. And so we haven't quite stepped into the LED sport lighting yet, but we've done basically everything else in our ballpark with either LED or induction lighting that's already reduced our energy consumption by 60%, and we haven't touched the stadium yet. And so we're definitely believers that that's a change that we need to make to kind of complete that circle and really understand and reap the benefits of that across the board. So I think lighting's one, but even what Reed talked about in just terms of use of technology in the venue. And we're lucky as a sport to have Major League Baseball Advanced Media as an unbelievable engine and an unbelievable driver in the sports landscape in general. And the move to digital in our venues, making them smarter, making them more efficient, making them more resourceful, making them that messaging and communication tool for a fan base that's in your environment too. And so I think we're lucky that our sport and the amount of fans coming in gives a lot of businesses and a lot of these partners opportunities to come in with a product, a service, a platform, et cetera. And maybe the fan thinks it's seamless, so they don't understand what's happening behind the scenes. And I'll use another James Curley analogy about he used mullets to talk about Uber, if anybody remembers, but simple in the front, sophisticated in the back. And I think what we're trying to do with technology is the same thing too, where for a fan it's intuitive. You just have the experience and it works and it's easy and it's enjoyable, but on the back end we're making these changes that they don't fully appreciate maybe the technical part of it, but it improves the experience. So technology, lighting, et cetera, I think our sport's in a really healthy place moving in that direction.
And Graham, real specifically on the lighting, that's been a phase-in of over how many years?
Last 2 years, we've kind of started that, but for us, the small win, a lot of people in these summits always talk about, you need to find that small win, you need to find that case study that you can bring back to a CFO or back to our president and say, there's a business case for this. Not only is there the greater good, but the business case of it. And so when we do lighting and we just say our ballpark's 18 years old at this point, we're replacing things that have just naturally worn out and expired kind of beyond that useful lifespan. So when we make those changes and you understand, wow, we just made a change that we needed to do, but we did it the right way and we did it efficiently and now we're saving a ton of money, that really gives you a ton of momentum to go back in and say, well, let's close the loop and figure out what else we can do. So,
what are some other win-wins for your organizations?
Well, I will be moving to LED sport lighting for the 2017 season, so that's a process we're involved in right now for all the reasons that have been articulated. I think the way we've approached it is we've used sustainability as really a platform to engage with dialogue with many of our partners. So as an example, Cargill, based in Minnesota, I think was really the impotence behind NatureWorks, which led to, I think, a dialogue with eco products. So all of our food plates, silverware, cups in our ballpark now are compostable, and that's something that requires a three-way partnership. Eco Products, Delaware North Sports Service, our concessionaire, in the Twins. And that's an important example, I think, that is truly a win-win. Similar with Ecolab, which is another huge company that happens to be based in Minnesota. What can we do smarter around cleaning products, things of that nature. And then, of course, I mentioned Pantera on water filtration. So for us, it's been a strategy around sustainability and ultimately offering our ballpark as an incubator, so to speak, for other areas that maybe could be tested. And we're in the midst of trying to find that sweet spot with a company like 3M. I'd love to do it around lighting when I think about what they do globally. We're not sure they're that, but bottom line is I think that's part of the dialogue, at least from the Twins' perspective.
And Dave, for a follow-up, so if someone here with a respective organization, what advice do you give to them in order to do the deal on the compostable product with your concessionaire? Like, how did that work? How do you navigate either the politics or the nuances of that?
Well, it creates change within an organization, which makes some people nervous, and certainly with the Delaware North Sports Service. As a partner, sustainability is important to them, but their business is their business. And I think again, we've said this repeatedly, it takes a top-down approach. It has to be a dialogue that takes place from leader to leader relative to the importance of this, and understanding that I wasn't going to ask Delaware North to make an investment. I needed to make sure they were whole relative to what their investment was going to be. And, from a Twins perspective, that play was less about dollars and cents. It was much more about further amplifying the sustainability brand of Target Field and the Twins, and ultimately trying to push our diversion rates, well north of where they currently are and catch the Giants. I'd like to get one of those goddamn green gloves at Target Field. So I can tell you that motivates us. For those of you tweeting, please get rid of the word goddamn.
Hearing Dave's story, it makes me laugh. David Powers is sitting in here and thinking about, before I got the job with the Astros in Round Rock, we were going to go to all the compostable, stuff, and we're like, have people carrying their plates and like they break in half and all their food falls on the ground. So there was like some trial and error, and it's like once you get to the point where it works for the fan, it works for the team, then you really feel good about it. And, just looking out and seeing our trash cans over there and all the recyclable bins everywhere, you almost go somewhere and someone doesn't have it, and you're like, God, what's up with these country bumpkins? They don't even, they just have a trash can, how rudimentary is that? So I think we've started to change perception, and it feels good.
But to the point, it can be a political discussion. Where change is hard for a lot of organizations. And so from the top-down approach, do you find that the organization, the sports team kind of needs to lead these discussions? Right? I mean,
well, I'll jump in there real quick. We're blessed. I don't know who else is in your market, but working with Airmark, and they have NRG, and you guys, I think, did you guys go over there? I was out of town the last couple of days. Some people go over there, but when you have sort of one player in the market, and it's important to them, and it's important to us, and it's important to Jamie Root and the Texans, then it sort of works. So we were blessed that way. I don't know about you guys, but it was a very easy transition for us.
Yeah, I would say it's been relatively simple. We've gone through a building boom in Minnesota with new facilities. So, the Exo Energy Center set the standard for us. I think somebody here is from the Wild that I think helped motivate us. And then the University of Minnesota built a football stadium that was going to be LEED certified. So I think that has an impact. But at the end of the day, this really, what I see about it, Abe, that I think within an organization is I wish it was always about ROI, and that's an important metric, and we try to look at it and try to understand kind of where ROI applies, and there's no question in my mind on something like LED lighting. Over time, there will probably be an ROI on that. But not all of these decisions are easy to quantify with ROI, and that's where I think your ownership and your leadership comes in around, again, a social responsibility, and that's certainly the approach that we've taken.
we're lucky in our market. Levy Restaurants is our food and beverage provider. They've recently taken over our retail as well, and they've got the Phoenix Suns next door at Talking Stick Resort Arena. They've got another concert venue in our market as well. So again, just finding those synergies, finding those opportunities to collaborate. And Reed talks about the example of some of the compostable serviceware. I remember going over to a Suns game next door, and after we had talked to Levy's leadership team about this is important to our organization, what can you guys do to support it? I said, well, we've been kind of experimenting, and I remember being in a suite and trying to eat something with a fork that was compostable, which was great, but it wasn't functional as a fork. And so, kind of having those lessons learned next door and not maybe having that happen in our ballpark was helpful. But when you've got the ability in a market to have one partner and one company in several venues and in different opportunities, I think what that allows us to do, and just, again, in terms of scale and opportunity and lessons learned, was really fortunate for us. So I don't think it's as tough a sell as you think. I think it's just a matter of finding the right partner, the right fit, and the right timing.
Well, and I think one of the things we balance is sort of, there's fans. The bottom line is when fans get in the building, we're trying to get as much money out of them as we can. And so there's a speed of service that is important. These things matter. We want to, have, socially responsible programs, but at the same time, if we had all glassware that was, man, we're putting nothing in the landfill, lines are going to be forever, we're going to be washing them, it breaks down the ROI. So we're always working to say, what can we try, what can we test, and sort of pushing the envelope. And one thing we did, I don't know if anybody's staying for the game with the White Sox tomorrow, but if you are, go up to the area underneath our video board. Airmark put in a kind of first of its kind. There's no interaction with a seller at this concession stand. You come up on an iPad, you swipe your own credit card, it's like going to the grocery store, and then we were able to put all fulfillers in the back and basically have a more economic concession stand set up for them, which enables them to do some of the things that we want in a socially responsible manner. And so it's kind of, we scratch your back, you scratch ours, and we're testing it and seeing how it goes, and if it goes well, then we'll probably expand that to some other areas.
Has it launched yet, or?
It's launched.
So
Yeah, we just
early
have
response has been
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, once again, you get people that it's maybe not age appropriate. The same with the tickets, and we brought cash, and then we have to sort of send them to another stand. But for the people that are my kids' age, they don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to go up. They want their food. They want to run their deal, and they want to walk up, and they get it handed to them. So there's nobody taking money.
It's a really interesting point, and I think the balance of efficiency versus fan experience is probably one of our biggest challenges, but one of the fun challenges to overcome. And both of our venues, Minute Maid Park and also Chase Field, think about, we've got retractable roof stadiums. So we're conditioning our ballparks, but we're opening the roof, which is so counterintuitive to what this whole movement's about. But at some point, we can't focus only on the efficiency of our ballpark, because if we turned off the chilled water and didn't condition the ballpark and open the roof, and it's 98 degrees in Phoenix at 7 o'clock when the game's starting, that's going to turn a lot of people away. And so finding that happy medium of running the efficient operation, being responsible, but not compromising fan experience, I think the big challenge is how do you find those opportunities to intertwine the two? And the examples that Reed shared and some of the things that we're doing as well, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle of how do you influence both without compromising one or the other too much?
We have air conditioning in Minnesota too in April and May. It's different type of air conditioning. The only thing I'd add is I think the other area that has been a huge priority for us in Minnesota, and again you see this in other markets. In New York, I've gone to many Mets and Yankees games via rail. Is we're very invested in a transportation system in Minnesota. It's a big part of the brand within our ballpark, and to me it speaks directly to fan experience as well. So in a market that, wherever you're at, if to the extent where you are with your partnerships around public transportation, whether that be light rail, whether that be subway, whether that be bus, in Minnesota we even have a bike to the ballpark program. That's a huge point of emphasis for us. We spend a lot of time and energy on it, and we think it does speak directly to fan experience, but it also clearly is a huge part of our sustainability platform.
Well, and I'm glad you said that. We have a partnership with Metro, and Dave said it had been a couple years since you had been here, and now there's light rail in front of the stadium, and that's going to continue to grow. When you think of urban sprawl, you think of like Houston and Atlanta. Everybody has a car here. People drive a long way. But if you hadn't been here in a while and you look around downtown, it's the market speaking once again, just like with the recycle trash bins, it's the amount of people that want to live downtown. They want to be close to the Rockets, close to us. They want transportation. So I think we're seeing it. We have a lot of work to do in Houston still, but if Houston, Texas is putting in light rail and having downtown living by its ballparks, that's really saying something, because 30 years ago, every one of you would have bet your house that that would never happen.
So I want to do a follow-up on areas of opportunity or challenges outside of because you mentioned a couple areas where you think we can make progress, but while you're speaking about it, fan frustrations, fan expectations, fan response. So you're talking a lot about areas where fans have really appreciated some of these changes. Where have they pushed back?
Well,
What have you tried?
Yeah, I think the Reed's point earlier about efficiencies around point of sale within concessions operations would certainly be one of them. In terms of the transportation piece, again, there's a certain chunk of fans that certainly are still going to drive to the ballpark, right? So that's an ongoing piece, and that's part of that dynamic as well. And again, some of it for us is internally. I'll use our water filtration system as an example. There's how much of that are we using to recycle water that's used for watering the playing field? That's a negotiation with your groundskeeper, So some of those things are there. Again, I think we're in a unique situation. I think there's things that we do that we don't promote enough with our fans. I don't view fans as an impediment relative to our sustainability efforts.
Gotcha. Food options?
I think food, maybe not food options, but food waste is the big topic that we hear about.
Yeah.
And so that was really a challenge that we took to Levy restaurants and said, look, we've got games every night. We've got games 6 months out of the season. We're between concession stands, premium spaces, suites, et cetera. We've got a lot of waste coming out of these areas. And so initially it was, how do we partner with organizations that can use that food on the back end? And so we've gotten in a situation where on most years we're going to donate 7 to 8 tons of food over the course of the season, which is kind of the equivalent of maybe 14,000, 15,000 meals that go back into our community. So that's a good outcome of that particular situation. But then you start to ask yourself, well, why are we creating so much waste? Why can't we be more efficient with the food prep and the kitchen layout and the staffing and some of those dynamics? And so then the challenge turns into, what are some of the changes we can make to make the kitchen and prep space more efficient? How can the concession stands and the expediters be a little bit easier to use so it's not as clunky and it's not as challenging for the staff in those environments? And so I think that's the fun opportunity to look at in terms of not only what do we do with the waste that's created in our venues, but how do we maybe limit that on the front end?
And some concessionaires using predictive data to figure out kind of what the flow of concessions will be for a specific game.
It's amazing in that environment too. I mean, baseball, big data, analytics being a big part of the driving for roster construction and how you build your team and defensive positioning and all those metrics. But even on the business side as well, where Levy's invested heavily in analytics. And so they've got an arm called E15 that's now doing a lot of the pricing recommendations, a lot of the food prep, a lot of the staffing models. And so it's even interesting how our sport has really embraced information in that capacity, not only for what's happening on the field, but also how do you drive your business and how do you make those changes in your ballparks.
Yeah, hearing Dave say something that kind of made me laugh, back to my days in Round Rock, we worked with the city to put a gray water line. You guys go to parks and stuff, you see the purple heads everywhere, so it's like a reused, reclaimed water that you can water fields with. So we had this great idea, hey, we're going to use this reclaimed water. It'll be good for the environment. It'll be cheaper. It'll be great. And then the first couple games, our groundskeeper's out spraying before the game, and it's open air ballpark and wind, and everyone's getting wet. And they're like, why do we smell? And we were like, okay, quick, stop. We got to go back to regular water. So there's things that like look good on paper, and then when you get out there and do them, you go, well, it was a good try. Good try. The other thing, the only pushback I got is like, the forks, like people breaking knives and forks and sweets. So there's little things that I think you learn and you go, okay, great, all the sweets, we're going to put real flatware in there and real silverware, and you just sort of work through it. But it's what the market wants.
You talk about opportunities in food waste and in opportunities in public transport. Any other ones that you're focused on that you see maybe a trajectory of shelf life that you haven't really figured out yet?
I think for us, player engagement is the next big opportunity in baseball, and I look at what the NHL has done, and Andrew Ferentz, congratulations for that. I don't know if I'm authorized to do this, but if I could offer you a contract to come and be a part of the D-backs, they always say hockey guys have the best hand-eye coordination, so I figure that's a left-handed bat we could plug in the lineup, but and he's kind of a badass too, so I wouldn't mind having that in the fold. But I think player engagement's a big piece of it, because naturally what we're doing, operating our venues and operating the facilities is great, and I think that resonates with a certain part of the fan base, but we all know players are what captures the fans, and having a player that's a vocal leader in that space and wants to get out in front of it, and more importantly, wants to be comfortable talking about it. I think that's the big challenge of these guys may have an interest in that area. I think we need to do a better job as clubs of helping them understand what we are doing as teams and operators, how we can help support it if it's important to them. And Paul Hanlon and I had a conversation last night about getting the PA at an event like this and understanding the movement that's happening in sports and how there are opportunities for players, and there's this enormous appetite to get players to be plugged into this cause and plugged into this message. And certainly there's business opportunities as well. So as the players find companies that they can align with and have that shared value and that message that they want to perpetuate. So I think we as a sport need to figure out how to get players and some leading examples out in front of this and supportive of the movement, because that's only going to perpetuate the message, the resources, and the intention on what we're doing.
Do you have any players right now that are engaged on this?
Not specifically. I think they're starting to take notice of what we're doing.
And do you find it's your role as the organization, or would you say it's the league or the PA, or is it all?
I think it takes all parties, but I would say we've done a poor job of going to our players and saying this is an important cause. Our foundation does incredible work across the Phoenix area in a number of different causes. Sustainability is kind of under that umbrella in terms of our D-backs give back and what we want to do, but we bring it to the players and their wives and understand what's important to them. But I think we as a club need to take that first step of making them aware of what we are doing and how we can support it when it is important.
I would agree that telling the story is an opportunity. I'd like to see our league play a more active role top-down on that. Understanding the clubs, I think, all have their own individual stories, but I suspect with Commissioner Manfred, as you heard this morning in that statement, that will ultimately happen. I would think that technology is already helping around energy piece. I know for us, we're looking hard at what we can be doing better around solar. And maybe even wind, and those are areas that of focus for us going forward, with the hopes that we can make a meaningful contribution there around telling that story, but also in terms of, frankly, generating more in-house energy sources, so to speak.
I'm going to kind of go off topic a little bit, but I think part of this is working smarter too, and how do you work smarter? And our owner, Jim Crane, has done a couple of things for our employees that I think other companies should look at. On the third floor here, we have a workout facility that's as nice as any health club you're going to find. We've got lockers in there with showers, and we have some people, one, that live downtown that walk, and anybody that walked from here the other day, you're sweating by the end, 3 months to 4 months out of the year. So it gives people an opportunity that do want to bike over. We've got a couple people that bike, that if they need a place to be able to change and not have to go home, they can feel like they can live the lifestyle they want. The other thing is there's a lot of people here that commute. We've got a ton of employees in Katy. It's an hour-and-a-half drive one way in the morning and an hour-and-a-half drive back. Now these folks can work out here at the ballpark. They can come in. We offer flex hours for some of these employees. They can work out. Then they don't have to worry about having a health club somewhere else. And now it's a 45-minute drive. So we basically have given these employees an hour, if not more, of their life back, because we were thinking enough to go ahead and do something that helps the environment, helps them, and helps us, and it keeps retention high. Then the other side of that is within the city of Houston, Jim, when he came in, he had a vision for what he wanted to do with the club, and we all get asked to be involved, to donate, all of you in this room, to all kinds of things. And we felt like, as the Houston Astros, one of the best things we could do for our community and for ourselves was go in what we call our Community Leaders Program, where we partner a company with a city-owned facility that has really been in an underserved neighborhood that has been dilapidated, and we go in and we put irrigation, we put new grass in there, we rebuild the field to where now these people have green spaces to go out and exercise. There's a sense of community around them, and once again, we're getting them out of their cars. They're not driving to go try to play a travel ball or go somewhere else. Now in their own communities, they have world-class facilities, and we just felt like those little things were an example of how we're helping the environment, we're helping our employees and our community, and helping ourselves.
Yeah, I love what Reed said. I want to echo kind of our approach as well, where Derek Hall, our president and CEO, is very focused on employees, and we actually call them team players now, in terms of that work environment, the work-life balance. And it was fascinating yesterday. Maybe I'm naive or I was just ignorant to it, but this whole movement of wellness and the WELL certification and how that aligns with sustainability and how we end up operating in our venues. And there was, I think, a statistic in one of the panels yesterday about you spend 90% of your time indoors, and a lot of that's in a work environment. And so I think really focusing on opportunities where commuting to and from work is a big piece of it. Nutrition, lifestyle, health, and being able to work out. We've also got a gym partner, Mountainside Fitness, who actually built a gym in our ballpark, and we've got all of our employees having access to free memberships to do that. And so to work out during a lunch hour or maybe before the workday, or a lot of times before the game starts in the evening. And I think that's a big, big focal point in terms of our employees. And as Dave mentioned, having a younger workforce, just by nature of sports, we have a lot of people that are 40 and under in our offices and most of our positions. And that's going to be the expectation. That's going to be an enormous recruiting tool for us. But focusing on the wellness aspect of that day-to-day life, baseball is an absolute grind. And I know working in sports is in a lot of different capacities. But think about 81 games. Most of them are 7 games at a time, 10 games at a time, nights, weekends. It's not show up at 5, play the game, and you're back the next afternoon. It's go home at 11 o'clock and you're back in the office at 8 o'clock to have the normal office day. And so this concept of wellness and how that influences, empowers, and motivates your employees, and then takes that back into the operation is really exciting to think about, and it's fun for us to engage and support.
We're going to open it up to questions, so if you have a question, just raise your hand. You guys mentioned a little bit about the league. What role do you want the league to play in this effort? Because you have Teambo at the NBA that supplies business practices. You have other offices within the league operation that give best practices. Should the leagues be more active in their engagement with you on environmental and sustainability?
Well, you know, I'm probably out over my skis because maybe I'm not as familiar with what the league is already doing. So I would just caution that. But I'd like to see it, frankly, be more of a dialogue at the ownership level. Because I think it's important that the league provide incremental leadership and ultimately use that platform to have owners and clubs cite best practices. I think it's important, and I think it requires that. I'll give the league credit. In Minnesota, one of the great things that came out of the All-Star game in 2014 was a partnership with the University of Minnesota. Tiffany Richardson's here today, and our green team that started there that really is all about the jewel events at Major League Baseball, the All-Star game, as the core of that. And it's all about sustainability and really being an education platform. Using the All-Star game is a way to really take that MLB sustainability message, and that started in Minnesota. It went to Cincinnati last year. Now it's in San Diego this year, and I think that there's more opportunities if MLB wants to lead on that front.
I'm excited about the direction. Paul Hanlon and Paul, who was on the earlier panel, being in attendance today and kind of understanding the opportunity to just perpetuate that movement. And Commissioner Manfred coming in with the Play Ball initiative, really focused on youth participation, youth engagement in our sport, not only just at a playing level, but also just engaging. And we talk a lot about if we can get kids in ballparks by the time they're 6, you've got a fan for life. And I think the expectation is going to change where it's not only playing the sport, but it's identifying what the sport cares about and the causes that are important to these clubs and in these markets. And so I think as a league, having all 30 clubs in there, what Joe and Scott have built over the years in terms of baseball leading kind of this sustainability movement, seeing what's happening in the other sports. So having a best practice in the NHL or NASCAR where we can lean on those leagues for ideas and resources as well. I'm really encouraged at what's happening at a league level, and what Dave mentioned. I mean, this panel is a good example. I'm filling in for Derek, and I'm appreciative of that opportunity. But when you've got 2 presidents of clubs sitting in and saying this is important, and being able to take that back to the rest of the ownership group and say there's a business sense, there's a business case for it, there's the greater good, and there's an unbelievable scale and opportunity for our sport to maximize. So it's not an overnight fix. I mean, think about professional baseball is 150 years old, and the Jackie Robinson example 70 years ago. We are socially responsible. It doesn't happen overnight, but you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I like the stuff we're doing this year. We've kind of expanded. Baseball really was one of the first groups to come in with breast cancer awareness and have the pink bats and the pink shoes and all that. And the MLB central offices, this year Father's Day was prostate awareness, and everybody wore the blue. And so you're seeing a lot more of that. So I'm like Dave. I'd like to see maybe a green day, because where that really happens, and we have the green team, and there's some things we do, is it enables people locally to make some money, to either market to a certain group or to use it as a platform in your community to raise funds for whatever it's breast cancer awareness or whatever. And so I think now's the time, getting back to that win-win-win, where, I think, I would not be surprised to see the league have something. And if you do it with the uniforms, then everybody notices, because folks are watching on SportsCenter and they go, hey, what was that? I saw the Twins were wearing green. And it just opens the conversation.
And I should know this, but does any league have a specific green day? NBA,
the NBA
right,
has
that's
a
what I
green
thought. Quick raise your hand. How many would consider your corporate CEO to make environmental sustainability a top priority within your organization? A top priority. Raise your hand. That's good. That's good. Advice to people who did not raise their hand on how to make that become a top priority.
Well, you have to tell the story. I mean, I think that there are certainly enough outcomes that have been defined through the Green Sports Alliance that could be the basis for a good business case. And you have to find the right time and opportunity to make that business case within your home market that is specific to your organization. But I think, to me, there's enough data now, there's enough findings and real life examples that I think it's a much easier case to be made in 2016 than it was in 2010. I can tell you that. But I think it's about telling that story, and ultimately, I can tell you, leaning on other clubs, other owners, organizations where it is a priority to help maybe influence those folks if necessary.
Who are leaders in the space? I know the Giants have been mentioned a lot today, but who are other leaders that you all look to?
I really admire what's happened with the Mariners, and Scott Jenkins has since moved on to the Falcons. But I remember back in 2009 taking a trip up to Seattle and just understanding, what are you doing? And granted, they've got an unbelievable network of businesses and passionate people in that community, but that was really an eye-opening experience for me personally to walk the ballpark with Scott and understand what they're doing in terms of conserving energy and composting and recycling and all the fan-facing elements of that, and then realizing at that time it wasn't a core focus of our company, and it wasn't something that we were initially focused on. But coming back and having those small wins to take back, and then a year later going to Target Field when they opened in 2010 and kind of borrow an idea from Dave and the Twins about break a bat, plant a tree. There's a proud moment in baseball when your pitcher breaks the bat of an opposing player, and so tying that back into an environmental initiative was kind of a no-brainer, and it's something that we've admittedly borrowed from the Twins in our own market. And so having those small wins to build the support, and again, how that helped us really shape, Dave talked about resetting their priorities as they were building Target Field. Those visits and those awarenesses really helped set our priorities as we were building Salt River Fields, our spring training complex in Scottsdale, and partnering with a Native American community, the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, who, again, in the desert, Sonoran Desert, Heat Island, every environmental detractor you can imagine, but communities that have thrived for 2,000 years in this same land, and understanding from day one, this is going to be an important part of this project. And Chris from HOK was talking yesterday about starting those projects and having complete alignment on day one when you go into that. All those examples and all those awarenesses helped kind of shape that, where we ended up with a LEED Gold spring training facility. HKS is our architect. Mortensen is our general contractor. Mortensen worked on Target Field. HKS is helping the Astros and Nationals on their new complex, which I think will be LEED certified as well in Florida. And so I think having those leaders in the field and being able to pick their brain and take those lessons learned to help shape our priorities was a wonderful opportunity to have.
Other leaders that you all see? Anybody else stand out in terms of,
even
outside of baseball?
I would cite those teams inside of baseball. Certainly the Mariners and Giants come to mind. There's many. I think that there were things I know when we went through the construction of Target Field that were the Philadelphia Eagles, and some of the things that had happened in the football world at Lincoln Financial Field, I think was very intriguing. Some of the things they do there around wind is still intriguing to me, with those turbine things that spin. I don't know if they generate any energy, but they look cool. But that was neat. I like some of the things that MLS teams have going on. Again, I like their demographics. They tend to be younger, and I think it's probably a huge priority. But I know that we're talking about building an MLS facility in Minnesota, and I can tell you the sustainability platform around that discussion is significant, and I think it should be.
Any questions yet from the audience? Just raise your hand at any time. So I've got one right here. We've got a microphone on its way. Thank you.
Hi there. You were talking about technologies earlier and how that's driving some of your operation efficiencies, and I know MLB helped you all install iBeacons all around your parks. Wondering how you might be using those to help drive some of those efficiencies that then drive operating, savings and whatnot in terms of traffic flow, or maybe incentivizing people to come to the ballpark earlier and relieve some concession congestion and traffic congestion. Anyway, how
So
do you
where have
iBeacons-
iBeacons helped improve efficiency?
I think for us, we talk about throughput and kind of moving people from these dense areas of the ballpark where on any given night, it doesn't matter if it's 20,000 people or 50,000 people in the ballpark, any concession stand from base to base or behind home plate is going to be congested. And so I think what iBeacons and Bluetooth have started to do for us is help change that behavior and direct people to different parts of the ballpark. Certainly we can create some incentives and special offers that they unlock as they walk around different parts of the ballpark, but we're really excited about that opportunity to just storytell throughout our venue. And so as you enter the ballpark, having the welcome message, certainly as you walk by different areas of the ballpark to make you aware of, hey, there's a craft beer stand nearby, or there's this churro dog that's amazing and you need to try it if you're at Chase Field, to try that, but also point them in different directions around the ballpark. And so I think the challenge is our ballparks can get congested. There's areas that are inherently popular, but helping kind of distribute the fans to different parts of the ballpark and maybe lead them to areas that they may not otherwise find is a huge opportunity. And certainly in terms of pointing out some of the sustainability features as they're at different parts of the ballpark. And if they're in Coors Field in Denver and they're in center field pointing out the solar array that's happening there, or the wind turbines or other features in other ballparks, I think that's the great awareness that maybe you don't notice it just over the course of your visit to the ballpark, but how iBeacons can kind of really help storytell in those venues.
I kind of feel like that commercial, I'm not a scientist, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I know enough to be dangerous. We have them. We've moved people to the mobile ticketing. We've got Jason Howard, who's our SVP of ticketing and analytics, who worked with Graham with the Diamondbacks, and then Mike Dillon, our VP of analytics. Really, it's on these guys to try to maximize it. So I'd say right now, we're probably not maximizing it, but we're moving everyone to digital ticketing. And then once you have the At the Ballpark app, the things you can do in that app are really, really impressive. And so, I think we have these grand visions of hey, we'll upgrade you to the Diamond Club, or here's a gift for coming to the game. Right now, we're sort of just getting our feet wet.
Dave, what do you see in terms of iBeacons? And
Well,
are there any
I don't-
negatives to the iBeacon technology that you're experiencing?
I wouldn't say we've seen negatives. It certainly works well. We use it very similar to the way the Diamondbacks are using it. I would say that I think it is an opportunity to go back to the player engagement piece, maybe to think about how players interact with fans that way. And then I'd say the other thing is it's a great platform to tell the story about your ballpark in a lot of ways, the history of your franchise. And I think it's important for clubs and venues to have a brand around their green initiatives or sustainability story. We call ours Go Twins, Go Green, and everything kind of fits within that. And that's a great platform because there's a lot of different spots in the ballpark you can tell that story. We actually have a pretty integrated tour program that's all about sustainability, that you can get that tour within the facility.
Any other questions right now? Here, so the panel earlier, I forget, maybe been Chris, the point was made that until these sustainable positions are established within organizations and they're not under special projects or they're not under some fairly esoteric title, that the signal really isn't sent to the marketplace that it's a real serious endeavor. Do you agree, and do you see this type of department being established within pretty much across the board within sports organizations?
I see the point that he was making, but I kind of take a different approach, and actually Marcel from Reed staff kind of shared it yesterday in a panel where it can't be one person, it can't be title driven. I think we need to create a culture among our office and in our workplace where everybody's bought in. And the Astros having a green committee, it's something that makes a lot of sense. We want to take that back and roll it up where some of the best ideas are going to come from people who experience it every day. So it's our facility operators, it's our engineers, it's our groundskeepers, and the people that are clipping the grass and saying, what are we doing with these grass clippings when they go out? And so I think there's important to have support and vocal support from a leadership level, but I think it needs to be something that the entire organization can buy in and support, and just the scale, again, of your entire workforce buying in and participating in that behavior, and then extending that to your fan base.
No, I agree with that. I think it has to be integrated throughout the entire organization. I'd worry if we had a green department, some might view that be their responsibility. We try to integrate it into everything we do, along with some other core principles around service and
But then who
volunteerism.
leads?
Well, it has to come from your leadership. I mean, it certainly comes from Jim Polat, our owner, myself, and every member of senior management, and we have to make it a priority. I can tell you it's part of incentive comp plans for some folks who have probably the most responsibility in trying to drive diversion rates or whatever it might be. So it's a huge, it requires a top-down approach, and it has to be something that if it's going to be important to your franchise, it has to be something that is led by the leadership of that organization.
I would just say that Dave made a couple of points. You all made points about storytelling. As a member of the media, I get incredibly frustrated when I come to these events and hear a lot of the interesting stories and facts and savings and efficiencies that sports organizations are doing. And I'll stress, well, did you kind of announce that? Did you tell any? Did you go to the media about this story? Did you ever approach us and tell us about this story? And it's not really yet in the DNA of your either communications or corporate comm departments. And so are you trying to work on that to get that story out better?
Yeah, I'll jump in that. I think we're our own worst enemies sometimes, that we need to do a better job of telling the story. But we also, are in a world where if we're telling the story about how green we are, people, they're like, hey, we want to hear about the baseball team. Y'all have just won 9 out of 10. So you sort of got to pick your spots, You got to kind of keep it in your back pocket for that slow news day and put it out there as a nice tidbit. But at the end of the day, when the season's going, in my personal belief, folks want to hear about the team. They want to hear about what's happening with the guys. They want to create the connection. That's why the thing you talked about earlier is if you can get an advocate who's a player, that will get
That's true.
a zillion times more coverage than if we just put a press release out that says the Astros announced, a relationship with Waste Management.
Yeah, I think there's the cautious nature of just the noise of baseball. With games every day, it's hard to find that window to really maximize that kind of a message. And part of it, Reed's right, we're our own worst enemy in that space, where whether we don't see the value in sharing that message or we're not able to kind of wrap our arms around a way that a fan's going to identify or fully buy in. I think the bigger opportunity is just make it easy, make it participatory, make it something that fans engage with at the ballpark, and it's just what they come to expect. It's maybe not a press release that they're looking to hear. On the media side, I do think we can do a better job of those conversations offline and helping people understand the changes that we made when you guys showcase what's new at your ballpark for the next year. It's not just this great new premium space that we created, but it's the fact that we use these materials and these ways to make that a more efficient and improved operation.
Well, I think the one advantage we have is we are every day of summer. We're 162 games. We're on all the time. And so I think consistency and doing it every time you come out to the ballpark is probably better than us putting a press release out, because people are getting to taste it, see it, feel it.
But when there's new implementations, when there's new lighting during the off season, those are stories that mainstream media, I do think, would find of interest these days. It's a little tip.
Yeah, we got a lot of coverage when we put the LED sports lighting in.
The minor league levels, I can't imagine it's a huge point of emphasis in terms of sustainability. I'm in Charlotte next week. Minor League Baseball, with their All-Star Game, is coming to Charlotte. We're hosting a bunch of team owners, and Pat O'Connor, the head of Minor League Baseball. If I asked them their levels of sustainability efforts, would it be on a scale of 1 to 10? Where does it register? Because they have so many other things going on. They probably don't have the resources.
Well, I think these are sophisticated owners. These are people that are successful businessmen and women in their markets, and it matters. And you look at the stadium building boom. Dave's been doing this for a while, and he's seen the whole from 94 up when minor league baseball went through this massive building boom. And so I think most of the ballparks are pretty sophisticated today, and they have professional organizations that specialize in a lot of facilities. The minor league baseball facilities a lot of times are more online with an arena in size and scope, and you're getting the same players. So I don't think there's any drop off.
Yeah, we just went through a renovation, pretty significant renovation of our spring training facility in Fort Myers. And I will tell you, it was more of a struggle than I expected. Not to suggest that sustainability wasn't important to county leadership in Southwest Florida, but I was only comparing it to where the leadership was in Minnesota. And granted, it was a renovation, which is a different animal altogether. But I will tell you, we ended up getting there, but it was more of the team pushing, frankly, than it probably was the government unit. And I think that was partially because of their view of a responsible use of dollars. But it was a healthy dialogue, I can tell you that. And it was not priority that I've seen perhaps at the major league level.
I think it's an area of interest. There's no doubt that these affiliates, most of them, we have 7 to 8 affiliates per major league club, and most of those are affiliate arrangements. Not very often that a parent club's going to own those affiliates, but in those markets, they're really selling the fan experience. They're really selling the venue and that day at the ballpark for the family or for the affordability, more so than the wins and losses, because we're the ones controlling player movement up and down those levels. So it's hard for a minor league club to really focus on, we're going to have top prospects, we're going to have a winning team. It's more about selling the venue and selling that operation. So I think in minor league baseball particularly, there's a great opportunity to showcase sustainability and why that's important for a market. Again, there's 160 minor league affiliates all over the U.S. and even into Canada, and that's a lot of fans and that's a lot of reach. And we invest to an extent, mostly in the player facilities. So if it's a clubhouse, if it's a batting cage, if it's helping with the playing surface, and so I think there's a responsibility and an opportunity for us too, as we make those investments with these affiliates, to be mindful of it. But within those markets, I think how they sell their product really lends itself to this kind of a movement.
Dave, you've all mentioned everybody needs to be at the table. Where's the corporate sponsorship sales team during this process in terms of, is this an effort that we're going to do in terms of a building effort to showcase sustainability, or do we build this out into a larger sponsorship program?
Well, in Minnesota, Laura Day, who heads up all of our business development, is very much at that leadership level, understands kind of the emphasis from our ownership and understands our expectation that we're seeking partnership. So again, it's carried through very strategically with pitches. And actually, to the point earlier about telling the story, I think the best case scenario is when you have partners who help you tell that story. We're blessed in Minnesota with Pantera, who spends a lot of money within our broadcast to tell the story. Eco Products tells the story. Covanta with the Hennepin County garbage burner tells the story. So there's a lot of those people who are, I think, our strategic partners, as well as people who are investing in the Twins that are also helping us extend that platform.
We have a partner here, CD Scrap Metal. And does anybody else have a scrap metal partner anywhere out there? Well, have you toured their facility? Yeah, you go to the scrap metal place, nothing goes to waste. They've got these machines with the magnets, they're cutting up the cords and recycling like everything. It was unbelievable. And so for C&D, scrap metal, which is not like a sexy business, having an association with the Houston Astros, it's very valuable to them, and they're very proud of it, and we send people over there all the time.
And I'm sorry, Graham, go ahead.
I think that's our single biggest opportunity, and it's been exciting in Phoenix as our city has changed, and a lot of our original corporate deals were 15-year contracts that have expired in the past few years, and so for a corporate partner to have the platform that Major League Baseball allows is an unbelievable opportunity. And so as we were hosting the All-Star Game back in 2011, APS, our utility partner, came to us and said, solar is a really big focus of our company. How do we figure out how to activate that at your ballpark? And so the result of the renewed corporate partnership was the APS Solar Pavilion outside of our ballpark. And so it's modest solar output. They'll say it powers dozens of neighborhoods in Phoenix. We like to say it powers 10% of our games over the course of the season. But it was a way to introduce us into that space and begin that process. And Blue Media, who's a corporate partner of the Green Sports Alliance and doing the signage at this event, as we renew that contract, talking to them about the print materials or the signage that's in the stadium and focusing on that. And so I think corporate partnerships are the single biggest opportunity because these companies are now putting a bigger focus on sustainability. They understand the value and the reach of Major League Baseball specifically, and we're certainly the benefactor of that.
And not to sound crass, but that's a real win-win when they're able to tell their story through your broadcasts, either radio, television, social.
No doubt.
They're aligned.
And when they're walking in our front door under a branded solar pavilion that says, hey, by the way, you can do this in your neighborhood, you can do this at your business, here's a messaging tool behind it, electrical vehicle charging as well, it is the consummate win-win.
Yeah, one of the areas we've also had a lot of success is windows. People, there's obviously energy efficient windows that folks are trying to get out there, and a lot of you in your ballparks and stadiums, but that's really as much sun as there is here, probably same in Arizona. That's been an area of growth for us as well.
Category windows. We're going to start, we've got a question right over here. Maybe we get a microphone there, come right, thank you.
So I'm trying to connect a few dots here. My name is Adam Sassler. There are the issues of sustainability and social justice, as we heard this morning, and we've talked a little bit in this panel about fan engagement and maybe the idea that fans can engage with the athletes themselves. Years ago, this is going to date me, the Carolina Hurricanes came up with a contract with the fans. They held an internal dialogue with, I don't know if it was season ticket holders, but it was a group of 20, 30, 40 people that ultimately came up with 39, I think was the number, ways of enhancing the fan experience. Would Major League Baseball, some of the teams, the three of you as thought leaders in this space, contemplate doing something like that on the theme of sustainability? Because some of your best ideas may come from the fans themselves, and in doing so, you can engage your athletes, you can engage your fan base, you can engage your corporations. It all falls under the theme of partnership. So trying to connect some dots here, I don't know if they all work, but I'm curious as to your reactions.
I like the idea. We meet with season ticket holders, corporate partners, single game buyers to get their feedback on a number of different levels. And I think you're right about asking them about some sustainability ideas too, as they're consumers in our marketplace. So if they can relate that back to a business that they frequent or a restaurant that they enjoy and bring us some of those examples to try in the ballpark, I like the idea. We certainly pride ourselves and we value those opinions and those ideas to help shape our business and factor into the decisions that we make for the following year. But I think extending sustainability, and that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think we already do it to some extent. We have a season ticket holder advisory council that we use throughout the course of the year to test certain perceptions and ultimately get feedback, and certainly sustainability is one of those areas. This year we're expanding that to be part of our annual surveys that we do with a number of different stakeholders, season ticket holders, single game buyers, just to try to gauge where those sustainability efforts rank in terms of overall awareness and importance. And to your point, maybe we need to do a better job of seeking ideas. So I appreciate the spirit of the comment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's creeping up the list each and every year.
Well, after a game, it's obviously the team's performance is number one complaint. Second would be getting in and out
Cleanliness of the ballpark.
Yours is cleanliness of the ballpark. I always hear ingress, egress, and food. Yeah. And so where would sustainability be? Outside of the top 8?
Yeah,
top 10?
I don't know if I want to put a number on it. I think it's outside of those 2 or 3 critical drivers, but I think it's again, I view it for a lot of our fans, I think it's more of an expectation that I think I'd hear about it more if it wasn't there.
Right. Question right here, so if we could get a microphone for this gentleman, thank you.
So increasing fan engagement has been a topic with tying into sustainability. So I know with ballparks or stadiums in general, one of the challenges that you have is getting people outside of their home, the comfort of the man cave or whatever you call it, and getting them into your venues. So what kind of technology are you looking into to help enhance that experience to be able to tell your story? Because I think when somebody hears a game or sees it on TV, that's one thing. To be able to experience it in your stadium and see that, well, there's a compost, there really isn't any trash, they're really serious about what they're talking about. So for example, the mayor of Sacramento yesterday talked about how wait times and concession times can be monitored at G1C, and that's where the GSA is going to be held next year. So that's my question: is your opinion on that technology, and what technology are you looking into to help enhance that fan experience, which again can tie into telling your story on how you're being sustainable?
Well, I would start in baseball with probably the Ballpark app, which we're heavily as an industry invested in all of our clubs. It's a huge piece for us. I'm not sure we do a great job around sustainability as a platform on that. But that's where I'd start, because I think it's a huge advantage, and it's a growing, the arc on Ballpark in terms of that app and the usage within our facility at least is growing exponentially. So, and that's really the priority element for us to promote. The other area that I would just say is that I think is an opportunity. I'm not sure it's directly to your question, but using social media in a much more strategic way around sustainability issues would probably be something that we could do a better job at.
I think a big focus on our end is this concept of driveway to driveway and the fan experience, because I think we all realize we're competing against living rooms, we're competing against 60-inch flat screen TVs, no line at the restroom, a stocked fridge. And so this idea of driveway to driveway and how technology can kind of feed into that is a really big focus. And so what Kevin discussed about what's happening in Sacramento and just the smart technology and Fan 360 and MThinks and all these kind of technologies that are out there, but creating an experience in the ballpark that's so participation driven that it's a no-brainer. If I've got the option of staying home or going to the ballpark, there's so much more happening at the ballpark. It's the place to be. It's a different kind of experience. Virtual reality is certainly something that we're starting to look heavily at in terms of just putting a fan into the play and experiencing how good 92 with movement really looks like, or how hard these guys really hit the ball, or turning a double play and what that's like. And so I think that's a big opportunity, a big excitement for us, is in terms of how do we continue to make the ballpark so different than the other experience at home that it becomes that no-brainer decision.
I think it gets back into the DNA of our game. Our game is a social game. It's one where you eat a little bit, you talk a little bit, you watch a little bit, and it lends itself to 3-hour conversation with whoever it is you want to spend your time with. And that's why it's so attractive to families, because kids can go have ice cream, they can walk around with their mom and dad. It's the only time you get everybody, whether it's a church, an office, a team, where everyone feels comfortable in the setting. And so we have to sort of embrace that and not try to be somebody that we aren't. Now, since we've been here in this hour or whatever, there's like not one person in this room that hadn't checked their phone like 20 times. So that's the way we are today. So that's why the Wi-Fi upgrade that Major League Baseball did is imperative, because people are not going to expect to go somewhere and not be in touch with, you know, my daughter and all her friends that look at each other 40 times in an hour doing nothing. You know, it's crazy. But that's the world we live in today. And so, you know, we have a really great fan demographic right now, because our average fan is about 45 years old and they've got a ton of money. That's the good news, that's the bad news. So we have to invest in getting a new generation of fans out here. And so that's done through technology, it's done through the things that Graham's talking about on StatCast now, where you see the balls and the exit velocity. It's done through all of these things that we're talking about. And so I still think we have one of the greatest games, because the cost, the amount of games we have, the time period that it takes. And there's people that say, oh, baseball's too long. Well, guess what? Nobody gets there at the same time and nobody leaves at the same time. They come at their own pace. And when it gets to the playoffs, it's a whole different animal, and it's hanging on every pitch. And so I love the sport that we have.
Speaking of which, you're going to host a playoff game this year?
I'd like to, more than one.
More than one, okay. We're before them in lunch, so one word answer. We're going to end it, and I'm going to turn it over to Joe. But when it comes to sustainability, the sports industry needs to do a better job of, finish that sentence.
It's impossible in one word, but kind of Abe posed that question to us last week, and for me it was realizing that bigger isn't better and doing more with less. So the stadiums don't need to be bigger, they don't need to draw on resources. How can you do more with less? How can you be more efficient, streamlined with your operation? And I don't know if succinct would be a way to do that. I'm not very good at that, but.
I would say innovating. You know, I think, again, we have the special platforms across sports, and I think it's ripe for innovation and testing and piloting things that perhaps I'm not sure we're doing enough of that.
Reed?
I'd say tell our story.
There you go. Great panel. I appreciate everyone's interest. I'm turning it over to Joe, I believe.
That was amazing. Well, I can't believe how much was covered in that 1 hour. Awesome job, guys. Quick recap of some of the key points that I heard there. First of all, the fact that the Giants have the 7 green gloves where we started out the conversation, mounted next to those 3 World Series trophies, speaks to the testament of the importance of sustainability here. Love the fact that all 30 MLB teams are members of the Green Sports Alliance, so round of applause and thank you to MLB. Our newest board member, we're welcoming Doug Behar from MLB, from the New York Yankees. Then the conversation shifted a little bit into some of the specifics, like it's not really regional, it's about a commitment, and they can do it in different ways. And then a little bit of momentum built up in telling the story. It seems like the telling the story is one of the biggest things that both you and the folks at the teams and leagues really believe is important, and getting athletes involved and getting the players out in front. We're pleased to tell you at the Green Sports Alliance, just yesterday, we had an athletes engagement meeting with several professional athletes in there. we're stepping up to try and help make that conversation happen for the teams and leagues and with the teams and leagues with athletes. So you'll be hearing more about the athlete engagement program with the Green Sports Alliance as well. And finally, we talked a little bit about dialogue at the ownership level. Glad to have owners here up on the stage and involved with us and on our board as well. And the influence of technology. And you know, I have to agree, I was guilty. I probably didn't make the 20 times checking my phone during that they talked about, but it was certainly there. So a lot of great points, and we hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. So now we get to turn things over for another award before we head into lunch. I'd like to welcome back Dave Newport from Colorado Boulder to the stage to announce the Sustainability Makeover Awards. Dave.
Okay, in the time it takes for you to check your phone, we're going to have a very value-laden moment. Please welcome to the stage the sponsors and the winners of the first College Sports Sustainability Makeover Award contest. This is a good story. This is a story you're going to go home and tell your friends about. Okay. We missed somebody. All right, so earlier this year, the first College Sports Sustainability Makeover contest was launched. Okay, about time. And the contest was designed, the goal of it is to highlight college athletics' unique and powerful impact on community sustainability, to influence fans' sustainability behaviors where they live, work, and play, and to boost college sports sustainability capacity. The Green Sports Alliance partnered with Eco Products, represented here today. Makeover Recycling, where's Jason? He was here. Green Drop Recycling, Lyle. EcoSafe, other Jason. ASHE, the Association of Sustainability in Higher Education, unable to be here, and the CU Environmental Center. And we awarded 2 winning campuses with 10 top-of-the-line recycling cabinets, a supply of compostable foodware, compostable bags, and an assessment and workshop conducted by technical experts from CU Boulder. Each winning prize package valued at over $50,000. Just under 50 campuses, ranging from the biggest and most well-known in the nation to the smallest, submitted high-quality application entries vying for these awards. Today, we announce the winners in both categories, one very big campus and one very small campus, both equally worthy, and the winners in very close voting by the judges. So I am proud to announce that the University of Texas at Austin, Longhorns, and Houston-Tillotson University, the Rams, So Scott Jenkins had to go back to Atlanta today, but he wanted you to know that this contest was an overwhelming success as proven by the high number of high-quality submissions and the outstanding leadership of the 2 winning campuses. Scott was one of the judges, as was the chairman of the board of ASHE, our 2 NGO partners. In the small campus category, Houston-Tillotson, a 141-year-old historically black university, set itself apart in a strong field through its robust commitment to sustainability in operations and curriculum, as influenced by the HTU Center for Sustainability and Environmental Justice, and by HTU's goal of becoming carbon neutral. Additionally, HTU has an active student-led group, Green is the New Black, which seeks to promote understanding and action on sustainability issues as they impact minority stakeholders. HTU seeks to engage its students in all aspects of sustainability by linking understanding of resource stewardship across all of its academic and athletics activities. Here today to accept the award is Thomas Henderson, the head men's basketball coach. So this is the award. He doesn't have to take home all the boxes and the compostables today. This is just for shelfware. This award is made out of recycled wood from beetle kill mountain pine from the high Colorado Rockies and engraved with your name. We also have Todd Cruff, the Sports Information Director from HTU here as well. The other winner you've heard of, our host state school, is represented by Lauren Lichterman, who's got fans. The events, operations and events coordinator for the University of Texas at Austin Longhorns. UT Austin's implementation of sustainability across many sports, not just their marquee programs, keyed its win by showing that even the biggest college athletics program can implement comprehensive, large-scale sustainability efforts. UT Austin also aligns athletics sustainability goals and actions with those of the campus and the city of Austin. That ongoing excellence and transparency of campus and athletics sustainability efforts are disclosed in UT Austin's STARS report, that's comprehensive sustainability report, and committed to in the soul of the Campus Sustainability Master Plan. Together, that leadership by the Longhorns models how a very large, research-intensive university with an enormous and very successful athletics program can integrate sustainability across all facets of campus life, including athletics, and then leverage the power of college sports to expose the Longhorns fans to the many benefits of sustainability practices. Please help me congratulate Lauren Lichterman. Thank you once again for your kind attention. This contest is likely to be repeated next year. It's likely to get blown up into many other categories. We're looking to double the number of entries next year so that we can reward those leaders in college sports and college sports athletics. And how about a hand for our sponsors? These guys really dug into their pockets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. All right, so we're now headed into lunch. Serviceware provided by our friends and partners from Nature Tech and Supply Works. And we'll be back here for our closing plenary at 4:15, chatting with the champs. You're not going to want to miss this. You talk about wanting the athletes, we're delivering the athletes. But in the meantime, that'll be sponsored by OSI Soft, by the way. In the meantime, we have 2 mini sessions coming up in the UPS Clubhouse Theater during lunch from ISSA and Shift Energy. And then at 2:30, a bunch more breakout sessions. We're not done helping you learn more new ideas that you can take home. And remember, the contest at the end of the day, whoever's got the best story and the most partnership connection cards, I'm going to be bringing you up here for a nice bag of prizes from our very own sponsors here. So go have lunch, enjoy, see you back here at 4:15.